remember Puerto Rico at all. The only memory I have of it was in, I think we went back, and I attended fourth grade in Puerto Rico. That was it. That wasn't fun. I remember that, I think by then, that English was my primary language. Um, and I remember I got like a failing grade in English, while my native Puerto Rican brethren got better grades than I did in English for whatever reason. I think the teacher just didn't like me because I was a New Yorican. I was already a New Yorican. I didn't hear that term until my father used it. Of course, he exempted Manuel and me from what was obviously a derogatory term. Pretty sure that's the only beach we ever went to, Coney Island. For instance, let's say, we look at a Coney Island picture, picture of us at Coney Island. I think it's pretty much a disconnect. Because I have distinct memories prior to, me turning 12. So what I mean by that is, for instance, Coney Island. Um, I don't remember Coney Island as other than someplace that we went. And I know that because I think I was told that we went to Coney Island. My memory of Coney Island, for instance, is that I got lost one day, and I ended up. They put me in a cage. It was me and two dozen other kids, and I'm trying to push my way out, and I'm not successful. And then finally, like on the horizon, I see Mom and maybe Manolin or Manuel or somebody coming, and I'm like, yeah, I'm saved. And that's it's a traumatic memory of Coney Island. It's not about getting in the water or laying in the blanket or running around on the sand or making castles or anything like that. It's that I got locked in a cage because I got separated from my party, and I couldn't bust out. I know that I lived in a tenement building. It probably had 6 floors, no elevators. Probably because it's what I grew up in. I mean, I came here when I was 3 years old. Um, and if I have little consciousness of my pre-12 years, then I certainly have even less consciousness of my pre-3-year-old years. So Mita, so she was our grandmother, and she was our caretaker till about 1959, 1960 when we came back to the United States from Puerto Rico, and she stayed behind. It's just a matter of when my consciousness really kicked in, and that was probably when we got to Manhattanville, and Mita was no longer there. She had decided to stay back. I can't say she read me stories, but I know that she used to tell me bedtime stories about Alibaba and Juan Bobo. And when I was young, and I know that she did stuff like that, for preparing my bottle of milk. Yeah, and I was old, and I was still calling for that. I'm like 15, and Mita, get my baby, give me my bottle of milk, man. What's going on? My recollections are the Statue of Liberty and the Bronx Zoo. Probably the most distinct recollections that I have of touristy things that we did as a family. And I remember that for our visit to the Statue of Liberty, our grandmother was still living with us, Mita, and she went with us. And somehow I got separated from someone's arm being exposed, no sleeve on it. I latched on to someone, thinking that it was my grandmother Mita. And I just started walking with this person. I don't know how I was reunited after that, but and I don't remember how the person reacted. Maybe I could have been as old as 7. I'm not sure. I don't know about Manuel, but for me it was at least initially it was it was I had a dad, I had a man, around the house, and I was happy for that. Later on things got a little estranged, but initially that was my take. It was good. Uh, I think for a while I even called them dad. I don't know how to describe it. For whatever reason, he needed to drink or drank more than he should have. Um, I know for a while things seemed to be pretty cool. We had nice furniture. He was handy around the house. He built stuff. He decorated. My friends would come over and they thought the stuff that we had was cool. We had that table with the fountain, on the coffee table with the fountain on it. Everybody used to think that was pretty cool. And he built a room divider. I don't know if you remember that. And he would even decorate it for the holidays. That's right. They had the round bed. Yeah. So your dad was kind of artistic. I don't think any of that would have come from mom. That was the field that your dad was into decorating. Right. He worked at a hotel, and he helped decorate for events. And he used to write about this mystical um, Mexican man, Don Juan, and and I remember that somewhere in one of the books they talked about death, and that if they approached you from the left side over your left shoulder, it meant one thing, and if it was over the right shoulder, meant something else, and it was either two possibilities: either they were there to advise you, or they were there to take you. There's a few stories about either like a poltergeist experience, or apparitions. After Mita passed away, I think there was a story about mom having found Mita slumped over at the foot of mom's bed, and mom trying to pick her up. Um, and there were conversations about Mita seeing people, other people that she knew who would see um, loved ones that had passed away. There was a poltergeist experience back in Puerto Rico, Caparra where we used to live. There was dishes or plates were just flying and around in the kitchen, or pots and pans were flying. I don't know if there was an earthquake or if there was real poltergeist experience, but I know the next day it was talked about as a poltergeist experience. The only thing that I experienced was that poltergeist night in Caparrateras in Puerto Rico. I go by what my parents told me and what Manuel told me, and what they always said, it was a poltergeist experience. I think the family that we had was in the Bronx, and then eventually um, in Manhattan, and that was really on your dad's side, like Elma and Cesar. I remember Elizabeth and Cesar. Maybe I think I remember Elizabeth visiting. I don't remember anyone else visiting. I think we used to go to their house and visit. The recollection that I have of Elizabeth visiting is I was probably in my mid-teens, and I know that she put some makeup on me, maybe even put a bra on me or something like that while I was laying down on the couch.
Yeah, you were kind, you were fun.
You was kind, you was fun. Oh yeah, yeah. We all played outside, including our dear brother Manuel. Yeah, absolutely. And we lived in the Bronx in this neighborhood called Brown Place, and the kids played outside. And we had different games back then than kids have today, right? For instance, we would have bean shooter wars or fights, and a bean shooter was like a straw that was large enough to accommodate these little bean pellets. Beans. They were beans, but they were the size of maybe like BBs. They weren't a giant red kidney bean, but anyway, so they were hard. They weren't BBs, but they were hard. And we would go around and we'd be like shooting each other with these beans. You just throw a handful of beans in your mouth, and then you could shoot these out like a machine gun. And I remember just getting caught in a crossfire once and pelted from all sides. And I don't know why, but that stayed with me all these years. And periodically, it comes forward, and I remember it. And that's the entire content. I don't know how I got caught in this crossfire. I don't know. It might have even been an ambush. I might have been in a war, right, or a fight with other kids. And when I say war or fight, I mean it as a game. There was no, at least not from my part, there was no, evil intent or intent to harm or anything like that. It was just a game. Probably. I roller skated, I skateboarded. Yeah, we would build them out of a plank. We take apart some roller skates, and those would become the wheels, and then you'd have the milk crate would be at the front of the scooter, and sometimes you would just put a couple of handles on it, wooden handles on the scooter. And I remember I cut my fingers once. Those milk crates were held together in part by this metal band that went around the milk crate. It was intended to hold the pieces, all the sides together. And for some reason, I decided that I wanted to take the metal off. I don't know if it was a safety precaution that I thought was necessary. So I tried to take it off, and in taking it off, I sliced these two fingers, and the scar is still there. Fortunately, it didn't require stitches, and even more fortunately, I I didn't lose it. I didn't lose my fingers. But I chose to use my left fist to punch out a glass pane in this door. Yeah, I have the scars. Maybe I was left-handed back then because I chose to, or maybe when you're that age, you're really ambidextrous. And, even by today's standards, I don't know if the scars grow with your arm, but I was maybe 5. And these scars are still pretty big, pretty long. I wasn't going to see my mom. And I acted out. I punched out the door. I don't have any specific memories of that. I just have a memory of the story. And I have the scars. Yeah, that was it. The way I recall it, I just wanted a good night kiss, but I think she had the mumps, and they were trying to keep me safe by keeping me away. Fallen off buildings. I've stared down at people aiming guns at me. Could have lost 2 fingers. I was it was only a second story. It was around Manhattanville. There used to be a park, not in Manhattanville, but outside of Manhattanville, and they used to have like a health center at this right next to this park, and they had a balcony that was fenced off, but the fence didn't have any slots. It was sort of like the fence was a series of rectangles, large rectangles that were, joined, and that's how the balcony was fenced off. So in the middle of the rectangles, it was wide open. So one day I'm up on the second floor and I'm spinning around, right, the banister, the top of the rectangle. I'm spinning around, right? No problem, I can do that. I was pretty athletic. But then I decide that I stop, and I decide that I'm not exactly sure if I'm on the balcony side or if I'm on the side where if I let go, I'm going to drop down. Okay. And I decide that I'm going to risk it. I'm going to keep my eyes closed and I'm going to let go. And I wasn't on the balcony side. And I landed on top of that fence, like my stomach hit it, and I just folded, my feet on one side, my torso on the other. And so that broke my fall. A lot of injury is that, on the drop side, there was a fence, and like a chain link fence. It hurt, but it broke my fall. So, instead of falling 15 feet, I fell 5. I climbed down the rest. I remember when I was in Bremen Street, I was trying to pull a tree. It was tree collection day or Christmas tree collection day was coming up. I'd taken our Christmas tree out of the house and I'd left it in the yard. And since I left it in the yard, it had snowed and iced over, et cetera, et cetera. And so now, the town was they only came around once a year to collect trees. And you either had it out by the curb or it was, up to you to get rid of it. I had to dig it out of this mountain of snow, and I was holding it by a branch and I was just pulling on it. Right? I was trying to free it up by pulling on the branch, and the branch snapped and it went right into my face near my eye. I know. And I'm like freaking out. I ended up at the hospital. I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to see, but thank God. I was at work and I saw these 2 little girls, and they were clearly, there was clearly an age difference between them. One of them might have been 7 and the other one might have been 3 or 4, something like that. But they were dressed identically, right? The same outfit, same top, same skirt, same shoes. And it just brought back memories because that's what Mom used to do to Manuel and I, even though we were 6 years apart. I think we probably lost the video footage, and I don't know if there's a lot of photos around, but she used to do that. She would dress us identical. Same suit, same shoes, comb our hair the same way. Ew. Yeah. The Annunciation, Manhattanville. We moved to Manhattanville from the Bronx, circa 1960, something like that. Between Amsterdam and Broadway. Oh yeah, I see the blue panels. Yeah, to the left of that building with the pharmacy sign. Yeah, I don't know if it was 60 or 61. So I would have been 9 years old in the 5th grade. If it was 1960 when I started at the Annunciation. My walk of shame from the 6th grade to the 5th grade. But I was there from the 5th grade through the 8th grade. And it was an okay experience. I had some pretty good friends. I found myself going to the Annunciation, 6th grade, right? And that didn't last long. The 6th grade part didn't last long. I don't remember how long I was in the 6th grade, but I know that one day they just told me to It came into my classroom. Somebody came into my classroom. It might have been Sister Aloysius, who was my sixth grade teacher. And she said, just grab all your stuff and come with me. And she took me over to the fifth grade. They had a seat waiting for me. And all of a sudden I found myself repeating the fifth grade. Mom was already aware of it. Certainly nobody told me it was happening or coming. I spoke English. I don't know what it was, I think it might have been a combination of things. I was never fond of school. To me, school later on in life became, a means to an end, not something that I actually liked. Also, I think that somehow I just started school a little too early. Yeah, it was probably the right thing to do. Stayed at grade level until I got to sixth grade, but that's what happened. It was this nice, really nice nun that I really liked a lot. She was my sixth grade teacher, and she was the one that marched me off to the fifth grade, and then I had her the next year, and I can't think of her name. And I really liked her. Sister Julia. That was her name. Sister Julia. I loved her. She was the one that got me going up to the convent to clean. And I used to help the nuns where they lived. I would go up there and help them clean. They taught me how to wax using those machines that you would use to strip floors and wax them. They taught me how to do that. They got me involved in a lot of manual labor. Then she got me a job where I would actually clean the church. I would help clean the church, just like wipe down the pews once a week or twice a week. I got involved in the church. I became an altar boy. I joined the Knights of Columbus. I used to sell the Catholic News. It was a newspaper. And I used to sell that after Mass on Sundays. After every Mass, I would be outside as people were coming out of the church. I was hawking the Catholic News, selling. They were tough, but they were never inappropriate. And I was in a lot of positions too, where I was alone with priests. I used to work at the rectory, I think for 1 year. Basically what I did, I just sat at a desk and answered calls, and either took messages or transferred the call up to the priests if they were in. That was pretty much it. So I was definitely always in a position to be solicited or abused very often, and not once. So when that scandal broke, I was really disappointed, and it really turned me away from the church. Even though I had a positive experience at the Annunciation, the fact that the church would allow that to go on and cover it up and cover it up and cover it up, year after year, decade after decade, it just turned me away. I was so disappointed. He wasn't a Spanish guy, Father Mustin. Yeah, I remember him. Tough. He would come around to our classes, he was kind of the disciplinarian, talk to us, poke us in the shoulder, hard, boom, boom, boom. If we had been doing something and he was talking to us, he'd be poking us in the shoulder. Yeah. They used corporal punishment. He never hit anybody. I mean, he just did the poking in the shoulders. The nuns would hit us. They'd swat our butts with a swatter. We had one nun that would go around and slap us in the face if we spoke back or we didn't do our homework, or just whatever they felt was reason to discipline us. I've got this one, but that was the side entrance up the hill towards the church. It was like where we spent time. I think the older kids spent their lunchtime on that side street. Down at the end of the street was Amsterdam. So you're looking at Amsterdam Avenue. You can actually see, if you look through the trees, you can actually see glimpses of the project, the brick that was on the outside, the brick facade of the projects. So that's Amsterdam. So I enjoyed the Annunciation. I probably needed that kind of discipline in order to have been more successful in high school. I graduated in 4 years with a decent amount of basic English and math skills. I don't know if I was a good kid. I probably, given where I was growing up, I could have gone either way. And in a sense, I think they probably saved me, by keeping me good, by involving me in the church and giving me jobs and responsibilities and things like that. They could have saved me, because hell, man, I could have, gotten into drugs or who knows what, if I was really running the streets. Because later on, I was on the streets, for sure. Once the Annunciation was behind me, I was definitely in the streets. I can't give you the percentages. I mean, I only recall one Asian family, and they went to the Annunciation with me, and I was friends with the boy in the family. Yeah, I do. I remember that. I also remember begging her not to, that it wasn't my fault, that they had started it or something like that. And I implored her to, not give them any money. And she said she wouldn't. She said, okay, I won't, but I know that she did. Later on, I learned that she did. Yeah, I mean, I had school friends, school chums, but I never really hung out with them. The only kids that I hung out with were other street kids, the kids from the projects or the kids from 136, 135th from Broadway. Those are the people that I really hung out with. I followed um, my Manhattanville friends. They were older than me, so they were already in high school. So I went to high school where they were going to high school. And that was Harran High School, like 59th Street and 10th Avenue, something like that. I probably attached myself to them because they were Spanish kids. They seemed, to be like me, Spanish American kids. I made a break from the people that I knew in my building. They were I either knew them and associated with them at the Annunciation. Like, there were a couple of kids, this Chinese guy, John Yu, whom we talked about before. I broke his teeth or something like that. Mm-hmm. And there was this other guy named Frederick, black guy. And, I associate, they were acquaintances because I saw them at school on a regular basis, but I never saw them in the projects. And so at some point, when I start hanging out with the older kids, the seniors, the high school seniors that I talked to you about earlier, when I started hanging out with them, I really pretty much cut ties with all my friends in the building. And I was always young. I know that when I got into ninth grade, I was like 13. Either I was going to turn 13, come December, or I was 13 and I was going to turn 14. But I was the youngest person in the class, and most people were amazed that I was so young in the ninth grade. And back in New York, ninth grade actually happened at the high school. You were at the high school. Yeah, for some reason, I just connected with kids that were just a little bit older than me. Um, and I might have been a little bit bigger and savvier for my age, so I was able to connect with them. And I'm pretty sure that that's the way it worked out. When I went as a freshman, they were seniors. I don't know, probably around 12. It was an inner city school, 59th Street and 10th Avenue. It probably wasn't the darkest community, but kids were bussed in from all over the place. So I know that there was Latinx or Latinos because I was there. My friends from Manhattanville were there, and they were Puerto Ricans. And I know that there were black kids there. I just don't remember in what proportions they existed. Ethnicity wise, it was probably on the Spanish side, it was probably predominantly or almost exclusively Puerto Rican. Race wise, it was black, it was white, it was Asian, black Spanish, white Spanish. And all the teachers were white, that's for sure. Yeah. Some of them were pretty cool too. But high school was interesting. Um, I was totally undisciplined, the complete opposite of Manuel. So I went to high school for a while, and then I started playing a lot of hooky. I think I was probably um, kicked out of high school two, maybe three times, just because I didn't attend. My grades. I used to get these report cards, and they would say like 0A or 40A, and the A stood for because of absence. So I was surprised I got 40, in some cases. But it took me 6 years to get out of high school, and for that reason, it was because I just didn't go. I didn't go. I used to stay home and hide in the closet. Mom used to come home for lunch. And I used to hide in the closet, the closet in my room. And one day she found me, right? And, we used to have this closet, and it had sliding doors, right? The doors would slide left and right. So it was funny. So one day she found me, and I don't remember how the conversation went, but I know that thereafter, when she would come home, she would open the closet. And I know this because I switched, from hiding. I went from hiding on the left side to the right side. And she would come home and only open the left side. And I was on the other side of the closet. So that was funny. I always wondered why she didn't open up the other side. I went out and I visited Juana's brother Mariano up in Ithaca, New York, where he was attending Ithaca College. I met, some of the kids that some of the college students that were attending Ithaca, and they left me with the impression that if they could go to college, I could certainly go to college. Um, so I went back to New York City, and I went back to high school, participating in a program that ensured me a seat in college. So I was going to, so I ended up going to Brooklyn College for my very first term, as a result of this program that I participated in. I took the subway, the train to get to Brooklyn College from Manhattan to Brooklyn. I don't remember making any acquaintances or friendships. Hard to do in a term. Not really, but I was probably a little shell shocked. Going to college and really not knowing what to do, what to expect. So I just, one step at a time. And I have one memory, um, an unflattering memory, and it was I was in freshman English class at Brooklyn College, and I didn't know the difference between TO and TOO. Imagine that. That's how well prepared I was, by my 6 years at Harran. Yeah, I really missed out a lot at Harran High School. I missed out a lot on, foundation building. I I think that there were a lot of teachers that really attempted to mentor me and took an interest in me. Um, I just School just wasn't my thing. In the end, school for me became a means to an end. I didn't want to work at McDonald's or dig ditches. So I took advantage of all the schooling that I can get. It worked out. I mean, I ended up with an MBA, and that MBA really helped me further my career in healthcare finance. It really did. It was middle management, but I had a six-figure income, and it really helped. I think I just went with the times. I wasn't. Um, I didn't fit into the extreme. I might have had my hair might have worn it a little longer than I'm wearing it today, but it certainly wasn't long. I didn't wear shoulder length hair or grow out a big afro or anything like that. I was always kind of a down the middle, a reserved kind of a participant in popular culture. I might have wore them for a week collectively, wore them for a week, but I don't think it's anything that I wore often or for a long period of time. I had a dashiki, I had, bell bottoms. I had the silk shirts, not silk. I'm sure they were polyester with the big collars. But I think I always gravitated to the center, to being a little more conservative within the current fad, whatever it was. I think Manuel was the same way. I think it was pretty conservative. I wonder kind of what made us that way. Has to have been some genetic. House. No, I don't remember, looking up to him. I think later in life, I was able to admire his achievements and his discipline, um, and everything that he was able to accomplish. But I don't think I ever looked up to him. One, because I think my consciousness, my real consciousness, um, starts at about 12 years old. So however I felt or looked at him, prior to that, I don't really remember. And then after that, he was really out of the house or so involved. We were kind of um, different, different people. He was, um, the honor student in high school and in college, and I was the street kid who was only going to school because it was expected or required of me. But my passion was just being out with my friends, and I really had to scramble. After I got out of high school, I really had to scramble in order to be able to do basic college work. I had really poor basic skills in math and English. So I really, really had to scramble. Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I had to attend that summer program, um, the one that guaranteed me a seat at Brooklyn College. Um, I needed to refine or upgrade my basic uh, reading and math skills, English skills. I got married to Juana. And it was like, we were either making things as we went along, or we were trying to emulate the adults around us. Yeah, Wadsworth Cherish, right around the corner from my in-laws. It was a really nice neighborhood, and I really liked my in-laws. They were all nice. They all treated me well. So it was good. I was with Juana, which was good. There was a mix. Yeah, there was a mix. Yeah, some of them were definitely closer to my age. Others were as older as Manolo, or older. Oh yeah, I think I got like a black German Shepherd like type looking dog, and I don't remember what happened to him or what his name was. And we ended up getting a purebred German Shepherd, and I think I ended up calling him Pancho. Yeah, if they were offended, they never made it known to me. Like I said, they were always really good to me, treated me well. That we had two bedrooms. Was intended as a two-bedroom flat, but we used either a dining room space or a living room space as a bedroom, and then as the master bedroom, and then another space that would have been either a dining room or a living room was, we used it as a living room. The kitchen was far removed from any other room. Bedrooms were at opposite ends of the apartment. What I think are the intended bedrooms of the apartment were at opposite ends. I think I talked about my evolution in comedy, and where I started back with Bill Cosby, and how I ended up with political satire and Jon Stewart and The Daily Show, and then Mrs. Maisel, just a sitcom, if you will, just really well done. Mom eventually did, and Mita eventually did. Crazy enough, sometimes I think about it, going back. But when I stop and think about it, I know that it's not my world. Not culturally. It's not my world. I mean, I certainly enjoy, the foods and the music and other things about my ethnicity, but it's just not mine. It's not my world. I was going to speculate that I don't know if I'd ever be able to fit in, but that's not necessarily true. Certainly, I could acclimate. I'm mostly American. That's right. I mean, I came here when I was 3, and all except for I think the 4th grade. I was educated here on the mainland, right? I can only remember speaking English. Even when my parents spoke to me, and they spoke to me in Spanish, which I thanked them for doing that every single day, including my grandmother. I thanked them. I thank them now that they did that, because that has allowed me to retain the language, to be able to speak it, and have an almost authentic um, Spanish accent, Puerto Rican accent. And it was because I heard it, because I wasn't speaking it, but I heard it over and over. And it wasn't just them; it was my neighbors, and we had aunts and uncles in the neighborhood in the Bronx, and they all spoke Spanish, and so I just heard it over and over and over. And so I'm really thankful for that, because I can read it, I can write it, I can speak it. I mean, I have limited skills when it comes to speaking Spanish. I don't have an expansive vocabulary. It's good enough to get by. The negotiation process, it's not like a vote and it's done. There can be some negotiations. The U.S. may want certain things from Puerto Rico. They may want Puerto Rico to make certain abdications. Like for instance, you guys can't declare bankruptcy on the $70 billion debt that you have. Because if Puerto Rico were to become a state, then it would essentially, it could amend its own constitution and take advantage of US laws and, cancel its $70 billion debt. Well, I don't know that they can cancel it entirely, but they could certainly restructure it, reduce it, or even eliminate it if they were to take advantage of US laws. And thanks to, I forget who it was. I know it was some deep Southern senator who snuck in into a bill. I forget when it was, 1935 or something like that. It snuck into a bill, something to the effect that Puerto Rico can't take advantage of the bankruptcy laws of the United States. So as a result of that, they haven't been able to do it. Even if they amended their own constitution, they wouldn't be able to do it. Puerto Rico would have to amend its own constitution. Its constitution talks about, liability, and that it's just something that they have to meet. There's no way around it. So they would have to change their own constitution, and then the U.S. would also have to enact some legislation that would allow Puerto Rico to take advantage of U.S. laws and declare bankruptcy. Probably, but it was in New Jersey, and we traveled there often. They had this, the largest outdoor swimming pool, and at one end of the pool they had this waterfalls and wave making device, and I don't know if they had sand or not. I think they did have sand at the other end, so they had this beachy type of feel to the swimming pool. But it was a swimming pool. It was that classic blue swimming pool water. And we used to go there often as a family. My room looked out to the back of the building where the mobile station was, where Bruni used to live. You know what? I think what happened is, I think we're both right. I think at one point that we changed rooms. I changed rooms, and I was in a room where it did overlook the baseball field. That was on the back side, and it might have extended over, around the building, so that it also faced the baseball field. I don't remember any baseball games there. I think if it's the same place, I remember going there and playing a little bit of basketball. And I think it was just a large field, and it was enclosed by a pretty tall fence. And there might have been a baseball field there, but I don't remember it. I know that they had basketball courts there, and that was the only thing I ever used. I don't have any other vintage stuff. What I do have that's vintage is probably online. It might have been things that I got from Sherry and Alani, or Sherry, I think Sherry. But before she gave it to you, she scanned all the pictures and sent them to me. So I have that. Well, when I went to visit after Manuel passed away, Linda and I went out to visit Pamela, but we stayed at her house, and I started going through their albums, and they had quite a lot. So I scanned a lot of stuff. I got a lot of early Puerto Rico pictures. My dad and mom are in the same picture. Manuel and I are in the pictures with them. But as far as Bruni goes, and you, probably, I have pictures maybe from, I was living in Northampton. Maybe mom was living in Holyoke. Boy, you have a lot of pictures, girl. You got to start scanning. I have a copy of that. That's a great photo. They're like on a sidewalk, standing shoulder to shoulder. Oh, I have a copy of that. I love that photo. These are some of the vintage pictures that I have,
And here's the photo that you were just talking about. I can click on it and it just blows it up to maybe I don't know, 6x6. Look at that face. Our Manhattanville apartment. That's my dad. I was the tallest. Yeah. Our grandfather and our uncles, mom's dad. Mom and Manuel told me that she used to wash my hair with lemon because she wanted. Look at that. Brown Place, circa 1956. There's Manuel.
Oh,
I think I just posted this one recently. Look at that TV, that old TV.
I didn't give it a lot of thought leaving New York. I think because for me going to Amherst was like an adventure, and I'm all for, adventures. I came out to Amherst and started going to UMass, and it was an adventure. It helped me separate myself from New York. On the other hand, I also thought I was better than everyone because I was from New York. So from New York, man, it was yeah. I thought it was a good idea to get you guys out of the city. Um, I mean, we were living in the projects, and initially it was pretty cool, but I had some hairy experiences in the projects. I mean, I remember, I would sometimes I would take the stairs, from the 16th floor down to the first or to the sixth or where I was going, and I would run into, people doing things. And one time I ran into somebody that I knew, um, somebody that knew me, and they were doing drugs. As I came around uh, the bend, this guy pulls a knife out, and he was like, "Man, Hector, you're lucky I know you." Because if it had been somebody that he didn't want to be seen by, the outcome might have been different. But yeah, so that wasn't a life for you guys, a life for mom. So yeah, I encouraged her to leave, get out of the city. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that was my fault. I lost my wallet. I lost my key. My key. I had this wallet with keys in it. It was just intended for keys, and I also had some identifying pictures in the wallet. It was like me and my girlfriend Marie, and whoever found the keys, put it together. Yeah, I think when we first got to the projects, Paulino Samuel, I think, was one of the brothers. Big African-looking man, right? And then the mother was short and frail-looking. Samuel, I think, was one of the brothers. Who would know what that means? Junior. Junior. That's who I was trying to think of. Junior would probably know what that nickname means, Jungi. No, and I don't remember Peter. I remember Sonia and the three older brothers. And I remember the father and the mother. Vague. The only people that I really remember are the people on the 15th floor, Francisco and his family, Alex and his family, Priscilla, that lived on the first floor, and John Yu. I think his family also lived on the sixth floor, but I'm not sure. I don't know what floor Frederick lived on, but I know he lived in our building. He was an acquaintance from the Annunciation. He was like the darkest black guy that I had ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Super nice guy. Well, smart. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I remember that. I still try and find. I try and find them on Facebook, but it's hard to find them because they get married, they change their names. But yeah, I've tried to find them. Ida and Suni and Floyd, right? Floyd. Yeah, we had the dinner yesterday and she said we could tell, whoever we wanted to.
Oh.
Last time we didn't tell anybody that she was expecting because she asked us not to. But last night she gave us the green light. Or they were ready for a boy. Everyone told them they were going to have a boy. I don't know if Linda was involved, but Gabby went to a psychic and the psychic told her that she was going to have a boy. And I
That's
think they were
funny.
all expecting to have a boy. And then they had an ultrasound the other day. Ready to be a granddad? No, I'm going to be Hector. Lisa's kids call me either granddad or Grandpa Hector or something.